Japan is marking the first anniversary of the earthquake and tsunami that claimed nearly 16,000 lives. Warning sirens will sound across the northeast of the country to mark the exact time the earthquake struck. Preparations are also underway for memorial services to mark the anniversary. Our correspondents Roland Burke and Mariko Oi, they're going to be covering the events as they unfold, and we can speak to both of them now. Roland, let's start with you. You're in Kesenuma. What is happening there today?
Well, this was one of the badly hit towns, left as a wasteland. Just the foundations of the buildings remain. People have been arriving here already this morning. Local people coming back from across Japan. We saw a family just now, a mother, grandparents, a toddler, no father, with a bunch of flowers to lay at an empty plot over there. Now, the tsunami came up this valley with such force, it's quite a narrow valley, that it brought 17 large boats with it. That fishing trawler, that's 330 tons and it's 800 meters from the sea. It's the last one that has not yet been removed. Now, some people here want to keep that there as a kind of memorial. There's a shrine next to it, a crushed car under its keel. But for others who saw that boat smashing buildings and homes and killing people, that's just an awful reminder of what happened here 1 year ago today, and they'd like to see that taken away.
Roland, are there any official figures for the number of people who left the northeast of the country? Because presumably some will never come back.
Well, that is the problem for these towns. What's been happening so far is they've rebuilt the roads and the electricity lines, but really the housing and the buildings haven't started to be rebuilt yet. Meanwhile, people are struggling, of course, the young people here, to find jobs. So they're moving away. And the concern of the authorities in this town is that they've got to get these places back to life while there's still a population that's able to come back. They're worried that if it takes years and years and years, and by the time these towns are rebuilt, there'll be very few people left to live in them.
Domestically, the Japanese government is providing $230 billion for rebuilding. Does it need any help from the outside? Is it getting any help from outside Japan?
Well, certainly there are organisations here like the Red Cross that are helping. They've given tens and tens of thousands of people things like washing machines. So they try to rebuild their lives in the temporary houses, the prefabricated tiny houses that they're living in on the higher ground. It's going to be an enormous effort to rebuild after this disaster. It is the costliest disaster in human history. So Japan has put aside a very large amount of money, more than $200 billion to do that. But it's going to be very expensive to try to rebuild these towns, because this is just one of a whole load of towns up and down the coast that have been left like this, a wasteland a year on.
And what sort of defence measures are going to be put in place to ensure that the same sort of damage doesn't occur if a similar tsunami strikes Japan?
Well, that, of course, is the big fear. Here, the land actually sank by 70 centimetres. We're 70 centimetres lower than we were before the earthquake, which makes, of course, this land even more a risk of a tsunami. In some places, they're raising large areas of land. In others, people aren't going to be allowed to rebuild right down here next to the coast. The problem is, though, that on this stretch of the northeast coast of Japan, there's not much flat land. It's the sea and then the mountains. That's why people were here in the first place. So there's very few other places higher up for people to rebuild their houses.
All right, Roland Burke for the moment. Thank you very much indeed. I know you're going to be with us on BBC News throughout Sunday. Let's speak to Mariko Oi. Mariko, tell us first of all, where are you?
Well, I'm in central Tokyo at Hibiya Park, where one of many memorial services will be held today. Organizers of this event are expecting thousands of people, but the government is also hosting an official event just around the corner where Prime Minister Yoshihiko Noda and Emperor Akihito will be attending. There have been some concerns whether the emperor can attend the event because he's had a surgery recently, but according to the Imperial Household Agency, he will be attending for about 20 minutes. But last year's earthquake also moved tectonic plates directly underneath Tokyo, which increased chances of big earthquake hitting the capital in the near future. opinions do vary, but according to Tokyo University, there's a 75% chance of a magnitude 7 earthquake hitting Tokyo in the next 4 years. The government, however, says the chances of such an event are about 70% in the next 30 years. But those studies definitely make residents of Tokyo rather nervous. I went back to my old neighborhood to see how people are preparing. Well, this is part of the most populated residential area in Tokyo called Setagaya. It's home to nearly 900,000 people. I grew up not too far from here, and I remember walking around this area thinking, where would I go if there was a big earthquake? As you can see, roads are very narrow and houses are built very close to each other. I was very paranoid as a child. I think I was only 6 when I first learned at school that Japan got struck by big earthquakes quite often, and the last major one here in Tokyo had been back in 1923, so another one could hit anytime soon. I even begged my mother to move my bed in my room because it was directly underneath the air conditioning and I was really scared that I would get trapped underneath it. And that's the kind of fear that you learn to live with growing up here in Japan. But last year's earthquake, according to experts, increased the chances of another big earthquake hitting Tokyo in the near future. So how are people prepared? Well, I've come here to meet my old friend Sayaka Esaki. We lived in the same apartment for 10 years, but she's now a mother of a gorgeous 1-year-old boy, Kenta. Ohayou gozaimasu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. First of all, where were you when the earthquake happened last year? まずはじめに、じゃあ歩きながらでお願いします。まずはじめにその東日本大震災が去年起きた時、どちらにいたか教えてください。
I was at home by myself.
その時ってもう健太くんは
Kenta was due the following week, so I was heavily pregnant then.
And do you think your perspectives changed since having Kenta?
I only had to worry about myself before, but my priority is now to protect Kenta.
And what about the preparation for a possible earthquake? Has anything changed? その昨年のその震災があってからその防災についてもやはり変わりましたか、考え方とか。
そうですね。We always had a disaster kit ready, but now I've added baby's food that is enough for Kenta to eat for 1 day. Also diapers and clothes.
Mariko, for your friend there and for other Japanese, are there any new debates that have arisen in the country since the earthquake and tsunami?
Well, Adnan, obviously the tsunami triggered the nuclear accident in Fukushima, which resulted in leakage of radioactive material. Residents up in Fukushima are living rather nervously, but here in Tokyo that concern is also shared as well. At this event, NGOs and citizen groups are using it to, I guess, promote their causes such as anti-nuclear energy debate as well.
All right, Mariko in Tokyo, same thanks to you as to Roland, and we'll be hearing from you throughout this Sunday to mark that first anniversary of the earthquake and tsunami. We'll have special programs as we have had throughout the weekend featuring Japan. We'll also bring you a news special on the ceremony which will be commemorating the victims of the disaster. That program begins in just under 4 hours. It will start at 0500 GMT here on BBC News.